Hi everyone, it's Mr. Wyman, and I'm excited to read for you a portion of a long poem that's actually a narrative. We're only going to read a few stanzas today, which is a little bit of a relief because it's actually kind of difficult to understand the text, and we're going to have to use what's called context clues in order to figure out what some of these words mean. Some of the words, the people who put together this text, they just tell you what they mean because there's no clue. I hope you enjoy the poem, the poetry. We're going to talk about rhythm of poems and rhyming words. We're going to look for patterns in the poem. But most importantly, with this particular text, we're looking for the meaning of the text. And I hope you enjoy digging in and working at understanding what the text means and get something out of this. At the end of the passage, you're going to be answering some questions, and you can see the questions here and what to listen for, and you will definitely need to reread the poetry to yourself in order to get the answers to write into those lines. So good luck, and here comes the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Wyman, and I look forward to reading with you this poem. Now, this is a little bit of a different poem. First of all, look at the illustration. It is more of a story. Well, at the top of the poem, on page 20, it says, "How is a poem different from a story? How does poetry use rhyme and rhythm to tell a story?" And the title of this is From the Pied Piper of Hamelin. In other words, this passage is not the entire text. But let's take a look at what we have here. Poetry uses carefully chosen words to express ideas and feelings or to tell a story. Rhyme, rhythm, and colorful descriptions are characteristics of poetry. How does the poet describe the town of Hamelin? Now we're going to read the poem. Listen to how the words work in this poem. Hamelin towns in Brunswick, by famous Hanover city. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. I want to draw your attention to this. The apostrophe S in the very, very first line. What's it mean? Hamelin towns in Brunswick. Well, what's going on there? The apostrophe S actually taking the place of is, and I recently told you guys about this. The poet used the apostrophe S in order to keep the number of syllables down. It's a little awkward to say Hamelin towns in Brunswick. You don't usually talk like that. You would say Hamelin town is in Brunswick. But in order to keep to the rhythm that the author or poet wanted to use, they put in the apostrophe S. So the pattern of this poem, we're looking at the endings of the words. So we've got Brunswick, then we've got city, then we've got wide, then we've got side. Okay, wide and side rhyme, but what about city and wick? No, that doesn't rhyme at all. Oh, spied rhymes with wide and side. Ditty, ago, so. Okay, ago and so rhyme. Pity. Pity rhymes with ditty, right? Let me use a different color for that. So pity rhymes with ditty. Ago rhymes with so. We've got wide, side, and spied. And, ooh, look at this. We also have city. Well, this looks like a pretty complicated pattern. Okay, now, I want to draw your attention to the box here that says context clues. Context clues are words near an unfamiliar word that give clues to the word's meaning. Look at the word vermin in the last line on this page, right there. What is the first word on the next page? Oh, let's take a look. Ooh, rats. Read the description on the next page of what the rats do. These are clues. What does the word vermin mean? Okay, now, I want to explain to you that rats can be vermin, but they don't necessarily have to be vermin. Sometimes rats are pets, right? They could be used for all kinds of things. But let's take a look at how the poem describes rats, and then maybe we'll understand what vermin are, because animals other than rats can be vermin as well. They fought the dogs and killed the cats. Oh my goodness, rats did that? And bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses out of the vats, and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles. Split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests inside men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. Oh, sharps and flats reminds me of music. I'll come back to that. And I saw lots of rhyming words like hats and chats and sprats and vats. Makes me wonder if the rhyming pattern does go along with this side. So what do the rats do? Well, it looks like the rats are creating a lot of, here's another vocabulary word for you, havoc. Havoc means problems, right? They're creating all kinds of difficulty for the people living in Hamelin. So what does the word vermin mean? Vermin would mean an animal that creates lots of problems, little problems, but annoying problems. And I mean, actually pretty bad problems for the dogs and the cats. And it's good to revisit the definition of words and to relearn some ideas. So rhyme is the repeating of sounds at the ends of lines. For example, speaking and squeaking. Those are rhyming words. Which lines on this page end in words that rhyme with rats? Now this question does not have lines, for you to write down your answer, but you should, when you're reading these kinds of passages and texts and they have these boxes on the side, you should take a look at trying to do what it asks you to do, because it helps you learn. Okay, so let's do this. We've got rats. What rhymes with rats? Well, cats, bats, sprats, hats, chats, and flats. Well, that's a lot of rhyming words. They don't always go right connect to the very next line. Let's take a look at other rhyming words. We've got cradles. That actually rhymes with ladles. And then down here we've got speaking and squeaking. Like music, poetry has a beat or rhythm. Rhythm is the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables you hear when the line is read out loud. Reread these lines, noting the rhythm. Made nests inside men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats. Now read the last 3 lines on this page out loud, emphasizing the rhythm. How does the rhythm of the poem support the story? And that's a really good question. How does the rhythm go along with what's happening here with the rats in the town? By drowning their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. There was another area on this page where I felt like it bounced along very nicely as well. Let me see if I can identify it. They fought the dogs and killed the cats and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses out of the vats and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles. Split open. Notice how it just kind of like goes back and forth, almost like a ball being tossed. Split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests inside men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats. Non-literal language. Poets often use words to say something different from what the words usually mean. Read how the rats squeaked, or shrieked and squeaked, quote, in 50 different sharps and flats. These quotes, just so you know, they are identifying that in 50 different sharps and flats is directly from the poetry. That's why the quotes are around that. And you would use quotes when you're quoting text. Sharps and flats are types of musical notes. The rats are not really making music, though. They are just making a lot of noise. How does this description help you imagine the sounds of the rats? Well, if you think about music, like if the rats were singing or making music, it would be like constant, right? And if you look at the illustration, it actually kind of helps you see. Look at all the rats. It's like a steady stream of them, isn't it? They're just constant. Look, they're coming out of the window, and then they're just going right into this person's trousers. And trousers is another word, an old-fashioned word for pants. They're all over this lady's, basket, and they're all over this guy's cheese. They're just constantly streaming like music. Here's page 22 of our poem. Ask and answer questions, says in this box here. Asking yourself questions and looking for the answers as you read can help you understand what you are reading. And this applies to any kind of text. Today we're reading poetry, but when you're reading a regular story, a novel, a short story, you should be asking yourself questions. We talked about this at the beginning of the year when we looked at the book Tuesday, full of flying frogs. As you read the first few lines of the poem, you might have asked, why would people in a pleasant town like Hamelin be suffering? Then you find the answer as you read on. They suffer because of rats. What question might you ask when you finish reading the lines on this page? Now I have an extra question when it comes to the idea of them suffering. How on earth is this a pleasant town if there's so many rats? Were there always rats, or is this a new thing? That's my question. And where did the rats come from? Also, I'm wondering what the people are going to do about the rats. Are the rats going to drive the people out of the town and they're going to go live somewhere else, or are the people going to do something about the rats? All right, let's find out on this page what's going on. At last, the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor's a naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking. To think we buy gowns lined with ermine for dolts that can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin." Okay, now, oh my goodness, there's all kinds of words on this page, corporate, that I don't understand. Corporation is provided down here as a vocabulary word. Well, let's see if we can make sense of this. Corporation means leaders of the town. Typically, corporation would mean a business. But in this case, this is an old poem and it's being used a different way. And that happens with words. Ermine, white fur of a winter weasel. I've never heard of that before in my life. But that's what ermine means. Okay, let's see if we can make sense of this. At last the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. Now this is not a way we would typically talk, but the poet, either they used to talk this way, or the poet specifically put it in this fashion so that you've got rhyming words that can go at the end of the sentence. And what does the people in a body mean? It means as a crowd. And you could see here a whole bunch of people are pretty upset. Look at this lady. She's like yelling. at the leaders of the town. So, in a body, as a crowd, to the town hall came flocking. And what's the town hall? The town hall would be the place of government. So it looks like these people are in charge of what's going on in the town, and these guys do not like it. They are unhappy with how these guys are running the town and the decisions that are being made. Well, it says, "'Tis clear," they cried they, "our mayor's a naughty." What does naughty mean? In this instance, we don't have a definition down here for the word naughty, but can we make sense of what the word means? Can we use context clues? And as for our corporation, shocking. Okay, so we know what a mayor is. A mayor is in charge of a town, and we found out that corporation means leaders of the town. So our mayor's a naughty. And as for our corporation, shocking. The leaders of the town are shocking. To think we buy gowns. Gowns would be, clothing, dresses, lined with ermine. Lined with, we learned earlier that ermine is the white fur of a winter weasel. So fur would mean that the inside of the dresses are warm. And then it says, for dolts that can't or won't determine. Determine means to decide, right? What's best to rid us of our vermin. So for dolts, they should define dolts too. There's too many words here that we don't understand. Dolts would be connected to the corporation. So dolts would be the leaders of the town. In other words, the people are saying, "'Tis clear that," cried they, "our mayor's a naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking, to think we buy gowns lined with ermine for dolts that can't or won't determine." So they buy gowns lined with ermine for the leaders of the town. What's best to rid us of our vermin. In other words, what this whole thing is saying is, why are we giving money or taxes to people? And see this, look at this lined robe, right, with fur, and they can't even get rid of the rats. Why are we giving them all these taxes? We need them to do something about this. Here's another box that says context clues. The fact that the townspeople are angry with the mayor is a clue that the word naughty means a foolish person. Reread the last 3 lines on this page for clues to the meaning of dolts. What do you think a dolt is? What context clues helped you determine that in this text? In a narrative poem, events are usually organized in stanzas. The stanzas on these pages are taken from a longer poem. Each stanza builds on earlier stanzas to tell the story and create suspense to keep the reader's attention. These stanzas present the problem of the people of Hamelin. What is the problem? What do you think will happen next? So we already know the problem are rats, right? And what's going to happen next? Well, I think it might have to do with these leaders of the town, and maybe the townsfolk are going to demand that they come up with some kind of solution. Lots of language and words that are hard to understand. Let's take a look at this down here. Civic means having to do with a city. So civic was right here. Rouse, to wake up. You may have heard of the word rouse. Racking means stretching. Where's racking? Okay, so let's try to make sense of this, and then we can just take a look at some of the fun parts of the poem. So it's hard to understand what's going on when you don't even know what many of the words mean. Let's go line by line. So you hope because you're old and obese. Well, what's obese mean? It means overweight. So because you've eaten a lot and you're not hungry, that in this instance, that's what obese means. Because you're old and obese. To find in the furry civic robe ease. Well, we already learned about the robe of the person in charge, the mayor, that it has this fur, right? And that he doesn't have to worry about being cold. And what's ease mean? It means comfort, okay? And then it says rouse up. And we learned that rouse means wake up. Wake up, sirs. Give your brains a racking. In other words, stretch your thinking, okay? Your brain is the literal like muscle in your head that does thinking. So give your minds a workout. To find the remedy would be the fix. Lacking is something that you don't have, right? So the fix that we need that we don't have. And sure as fate. What is your fate? It means like what you have coming to you. You can't help but it's the effect, right? So for cause and effect, the fate would be your effect. We'll send you packing. Packing, you may have heard this idiom. Send you packing means send you on your way. Like you'll have to pack up your stuff and you'll be out of office. That's what it means. At this, the mayor, so all of this is in quotation marks, right? And the other quotation marks started in the previous stanza up here. So, 'tis clear, cried they, our mayor's a naughty, and then they keep yelling, right? All these people are yelling, our mayor's a naughty. And down here, they finish with, we'll send you packing if you don't fix this situation. So that's what's going on. There's lots of words that we don't understand, but hopefully from my explanation and from context clues, you can figure it out. Okay, right here, it talks about context clues. So, in the lines on this page, the townspeople threatened to send the mayor packing. And then the mayor and the corporation quaked. Why are the mayor and his corporation quaking? How are they feeling? How does this help you understand what consternation means? Quaked with a mighty consternation. Yeah, I never even explained that. That you will be doing some work with. It says comprehension check. Look back at the excerpt from the Pied Piper of Hamelin to see how the poet describes the town of Hamelin and its people. So you should reread parts of the poem. Reread the whole poem. Draw conclusions by looking closely at the poet's words. Answer the questions below with details from the poem. And here we have actually the people who put this together, this text, provided an example of what could be written to answer the questions, okay, and how you should be answering them. So, are the events in the poem real or imaginary? Now, I actually was taking a look at this and thinking that they were real because there were times when rats would overrun a town and would bring in disease and it'd be like a serious problem in Europe. But the people who put this together, they've read the whole text, the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and I'm actually now curious to read the rest of the poem and story. I want to know what happens with these rats and stuff. But they say that this whole thing is imaginary. The events are imaginary. So it's just a make-believe story, a fictional tale. And then how can you tell? Well, the description sounds like a fairy tale. The illustrations are funny, not scary. And I would agree with that. The illustrations are pretty silly. And even the imagery, the words that the poet uses when it talked about like the rats making sharps and flats, that is kind of silly. So here are some questions for you to write in on these lines. what does the poet think of the rats? And then you can explain over here. How can you tell? So say some specific ideas from the text that shares what the poet thinks. And then what do the people in the town think about the leaders in charge? This I was thinking about is the main idea of this particular portion of the passage. Um, I don't think that the people are very happy with the leaders. They're blaming the leaders for the rats, or at least they're expecting the leaders to do something about the rats, and they're unhappy that like nothing seems to be happening. Why do they think that? Well, you go back to the poem and write some information here that's specifically from the poem. And then, how do the leaders feel at the end of this section of the poem? Why do they feel that way? It doesn't. You need to actually infer their feelings. Good luck.